Sometimes the best stories in golf aren't found on tour. You'll find them at the back of the range. And here's your host, Ben Adelberg.
And welcome to the Back of the Range. I am your host, Ben Adelberg. This is episode 225. Finishing off this week with one final episode, I first met Walter Todd at the East-West matches last year at Merrido Golf Club. What an incredible guy, so humble, so genuine. He's a native of South Carolina and has flourished in the Mid-Am and now the senior ranks, especially in and around the Palmetto State. He's won the Azalea Senior, and he even ventured down to Georgia to capture the Jones Senior. Now, despite being very humble and somewhat soft-spoken, don't let that fool you, because Walter Todd went undefeated at the East-West matches. You know, there were over 637 combined USGA appearances between the 40 guys at the East-West matches, and this guy surely held his own. He's a blast to be around, always with a great story. I knew that I absolutely had to have him join me here at the Back of the Range. Now, this episode was recorded a little while back, right around Ryder Cup time. I was probably in the middle of some consecutive weeks of travel, so I apologize for this episode getting out a little bit late. But sit back, grab a beer, or maybe a soda pop, or even a sweet tea, and enjoy my conversation with a true Southern gentleman, Walter Todd. Walter, thanks for joining me. You're at the Back of the Range. How are you?
I'm doing great, Ben. I appreciate you considering me to be on here. I feel very honored.
Well, it's my honor. It was a pleasure meeting you way back in, gosh, what was that? Was that 2019 at the East-West matches at Merrido? It feels like ages ago.
It does, but as you know, it goes by quick.
Oh, sure, yeah. Well, lot has changed in the world and everything that we're dealing with now. But yeah, the East-West matches at Merrido, we're definitely going to talk about that. That's really where I got to see you play, and I got to see a lot of putts made. We're definitely going to talk about the legendary short game that you displayed there at Merrido. But let's see, you're the first guest that I've spoken with after since the Ryder Cup has been completed at Whistling Straits. Not only you're an accomplished amateur player, but I'm sure you're a fan of the game. I'm guessing you watched just a little bit of the Ryder Cup, right?
I watched a lot of the Ryder Cup. I sure did enjoyed it very much. And you know, I might regret saying this, but you know, it's hard for me to pull against anybody in those matches.
Okay.
I love the European guys. They seem like great guys. Love both captains. Obviously, I'm pulling for the Americans, but if I'm being completely honest, I'll say there are certain matches or certain pairings that I feel a little bit kind of compelled to maybe pull a little bit for some of the Europeans, but I want the Americans to win the matches for sure. But you know, it's hard to pull against certain personalities. Like I say, I may regret saying that.
No, well, I mean, no, everyone kind of has their favorites. I mean, all these guys know each other anyway, and they're all so close. And yeah, I can imagine that. Yeah, there's some guys that I watch and I say, well, you know, that I don't get too, you know, excited for that guy. I mean, like, how do you like Shane Lowry? How do you root against Shane Lowry?
Exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of them. You know, Rory, how great he handled things. That interview with him touched me.
Yeah.
At the end. And how the Europeans just love it, and the Americans do too as well. And I love the way it's been embraced and the teams, and that's great. Sometimes I don't like to see is the fans, you know, cheering for missed shots or missed putts. And I think some of the players try to tone that down as well, which I was glad to see. But yeah, that's great entertainment. I thought the play was great from both sides. The Europeans played well, as you know, the Americans just played better.
Yeah, I think that was kind of the overwhelming sentiment. Is just we have a much stronger team now, much younger team now, and it's going to be interesting to see. And I completely agree with you. My only I guess the only thing that really kind of rubbed me the wrong way with the Ryder Cup this year was just like you said, some of the fans. I felt that just some of the booing really good shots or complete silence with really good shots. And I know that it's going to be like that over in Rome in a couple of years, and I know they give it just as good as we give it. But I don't like seeing that event go that direction. I just
Me either, or any event in golf.
well, yeah, that's very true. I just don't, you know, I don't know. We only get it once every 2 years. It should be a celebration of the game. It should be a celebration of competition. And I just, if you want to go boo people, go to, go to UFC, go to professional wrestling, go. I just, it's just not, doesn't do it for me. I'm really concerned. I hope it doesn't keep going in that direction.
I'm with you 100%.
Were you potentially at were you at Kiowa in 91? You live in Lawrence, South Carolina, just 3 hours northwest of Kiowa. Do you have any memories of being at the Ryder Cup in 91 by any chance?
I did not go to the Ryder Cup in person. I was actually playing an event at Columbia Country Club, and we got through, and there was just a big crowd in the bar. I do remember it vividly at Columbia Country Club, and watching Langer miss the putt, and that. I go back to that. It's hard for me, even the way things were then, to be pulling against Langer. It's hard for me to pull against any of those guys when it gets like that. I mean, I love those Europeans. I love most all the Americans, and it's hard for me to get as charged up as some of them. It's just to get there, because it's, those Europeans seem like great guys, and they seem like to be fun to have a couple of sodas with, and you try to get a lot of laughs out of them.
Sodas. So I'm not okay.
Well, cool pop.
There you go.
Cold beers.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well. As I said, Lawrence, South Carolina. That's where you're living right now, and I'm guessing native of South Carolina. You spent your whole life there?
I spent my whole life right here in Lawrence, South Carolina, born and raised, and never really wanted to be anywhere else. I'm planning to expire here. I guess, and I travel. I guess I'm okay travel, probably like everything, more than some and less than others, but I never want to be anywhere else. And when I go for 8 or 10 days, I'm ready to get back.
So
I love it. It's a small town. It's about probably 12,000 people in the city. So it's big enough for me. And I can be downtown Greenville in 35, 40 minutes, and near the beach, near the mountains. It's get all 4 seasons, and I love it here. Never want to be anywhere else.
That's awesome. How did you get into the game of golf in Lawrence, South Carolina?
Well, I grew up with 2 older brothers who played. My father loved to play golf. He took it up later in life. He played football and basketball in college, but he took up golf and he loved it. And so we would play golf at Lakeside Country Club, which is a little 6,400 yard course in Lawrence. And during the summers, I'd play and loved it, and play 9 holes, go to the pool, come back and play 9 more, and just grew up around the game. I played other things growing up. So in the spring and the summer, we would play golf, and played other sports and did different things. But golf has always been something I remember from the time I could hold a golf club, I guess.
Now, a lot of guys that I have on the podcast, they're playing collegially right now at a lot of, big programs, whether it's, Clemson or Texas, Oklahoma State. And, we talk a lot about the junior golf and college recruiting processes that they had to go through. I mean, they're playing all over the country. They're getting recruited at, whether in 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade. I mean, they have college coaches all over them. And, trying to help them or kind of learn from them and how they navigate that process. What was your junior golf experience like? It's one thing to get into the game, but it also, you're obviously an accomplished amateur and been playing, playing competitively for so long. what was it like as a junior for you when you were just playing? Was it just playing 9 holes and going to the pool, like you said, or did it start transitioning into into a competitive environment?
To tell you the truth, I probably played 2 or 3 junior events a year. There was I'd play in the state junior. Spartanburg Country Club of Spartanburg had an event, and Greenville had an event, and that's probably the extent of my junior golf. I had okay high school player, and I really was not recruited. I mean, maybe recruited to play golf, but I played football and basketball growing up, and I actually played a couple of years of football at Walter College. So I really did not. Golf was not my thing growing up, really. I was more focused on the football and the basketball, and I love golf. I probably loved it better than any of them, so I don't know why I didn't figure it out. But, I played a couple of years of football at Walford. I probably got a record up there that's still standing, Ben, and I can say this without having a breakdown. I threw 4 interceptions in one half. So that kind of ended my my college football. But anyway, it maybe motivated me to try to be better at golf as time went on. And I played a match or two for Walford when I was up there. And then I transferred to Presbyterian College, and I played there, but we really probably never had a practice or had a football coach that would drive us. And so I really got into the really competitive golf in my late 20s or really in my 30s.
So what's really great about the game, and that's kind of funny that so basically that was pretty much the time when you knew football wasn't in your future. 4 interceptions in one half, right?
Well, it was. I thought it might be, but that's a shock to a 20-year-old system when you think you're going to be a pretty good football player, and all of a sudden you're done. I don't know if I realized it quite at the time, but looking back, I was done after that game.
I can imagine that. The coach had some words with you at that point.
He had some words. Getting off the field. I won't forget that pretty much forever. But
oh my God! Well, I'm sorry that I brought it up or that it came up. I didn't think that was going to happen during this episode.
That's no worries. I can tell it now without having a breakdown.
Okay.
But it was not pleasant.
You're a strong man.
The memory was not a good memory, but I'm learning to deal with it.
So well, and what's interesting, just talking about, basically you're getting into the game and getting competitive when you reach kind of the mid-am circuit, and now obviously the mid-am game is very popular. We're actually chatting right now during the U.S. Mid-Amateur Championship, and how did you balance career and then also golf, because that's something that's really challenging now, but and I think it's always going to be challenging. People have to balance their family family obligations and their career aspirations, and then also get out and play a little bit. How did you balance that to the point where you got to say, hey, I'm getting better at this, maybe I'm going to start competing?
Well, I had a very understanding wife, for one thing. She supported me in my golf game. I got married when I was right at 30, and my golf game started to get better. My wife has supported me. I mean, she was keeping 2 children young when I was going to play golf a lot of times. And I look back on that, I probably didn't appreciate it as much then as I do now. But she put up with a lot, and maybe I'd hear a little bit about it, but not much. She was very supportive, and it made a lot of difference in a lot of ways. And I was in a family business, and I could take off from time to time, although it was a labor-intensive business. We were food service distributors, but somehow we made it work and had a lot of good support in the business as well. So I couldn't have done it without a lot of help. And I probably play a lot more now than I did then, but I played a lot through the years. Yep.
And then your boys are also playing as well, and then obviously we're going to lead into just talking a little bit about the Southern or the South Carolina Golf Association provides just so many great tournaments and I mean, there's so many great golf courses in South Carolina as well. I mean, there's really no shortage of events that you can play in. How did you introduce them to the game?
There's a great South Carolina junior golf, and they both started when they were 8 or 9 and made a lot of great friends. And they both continued to play competitively, I guess from that time on. My oldest, Walt Jr., plays probably a little more than Neil, but they're both probably equal in talent. But Walt plays a little more. Neil likes to hunt and fish, and he just got married last weekend, so he it's not quite as important to him, or he has more other interest. And Walt's kind of like me; he just likes to play golf. Neil is a little more diversified.
There you go. Well, I mean, I know that Walt Jr. played at Winthrop, so obviously it's he's following kind of down that line of play, played competitively in college, and then also you guys captured the father son, and you guys go back and forth. I think if I understand it correctly, you guys kind of rotate as to who's playing with who. Is that right? How do you guys figure that out?
Well, we do exactly. There's a South Carolina father son, and there's a Carolina father son, and no matter what happens, we alternate years. And I've had success with both of them, which is very dear to me. And they, it's just worked out very well. I've won with both of them in the South Carolina, and then Walt and I won a couple of Carolina's father sons as well. And Neil and I have lost in a playoff there, so we're competitive in that, and that's something that is very dear to me and a lot of fun, and something I probably choke in more than worse than anything is when I get in those father sons.
Oh, I mean like the pressure you mean?
It's very important to me, and I get a little nervous in them. I'll admit that.
Oh, real? Okay, so you're saying you get more nervous in a father-son than if you're playing in like a state mid or a state senior or even a USGA event?
I get nervous playing in a Friday afternoon bunny hop, but
okay.
But the alternate shot, and you're playing with your son, and you don't want to let him down, and it's I'll admit it's nerve-wracking, and it's maybe even more so than playing for yourself and in certain events.
Okay,
yeah.
so do you remember a time when maybe like instead of you trying to ease your son's nerves and help them along, do you remember a time that your son maybe kind of the tables turned where he was like, let me kind of help dad through this?
It's happened just in the last few years with both of them. They're the better players now, and I probably, that's exactly what you said has happened. And in fact, Walt and I got in a playoff this year at Chanticleer for the South Carolina father son, and went to a playoff, and I hit the second shot in the water. So it was a bitter pill, but he passed me on the back and tried to calm me down before the shot and after, and it's just like I know I heard Pat Harrington say, you put yourself out there in sport, and sometimes you're going to do well, and sometimes you're not. And I go back through any kind of sport I played, and I've been times when I've played well, and there's been times when I've failed miserably or choked miserably, however you want to say. But the only thing you can do is go back out there and try to play again, try to hit the next shot or throw the next pass or whatever it be, hit the next free throw. If you play the game or whatever, you're gonna have those opportunities to play well or not. So
yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that with just kind of the dynamic kind of changing. And I don't know about you being the weaker player. I mean, there's a lot of accomplishments attached to your name. I mean, 2017 Jones Cup Jones Cup Senior Amateur Champion, Senior Azalea in 2019, Senior Player of the Year. So you're racking up a lot of these titles. and I'm sure you know the answer and can speak, at length about this. But just how good is the Mid-Am senior circuit in the Carolinas? I mean, gosh,
You know,
we've had what?
that's a point that I've always made. And it's dear to me that I think golf in the Carolinas has been great, from the mid-ams to the seniors, and you can see it on the national levels when you go to the mid-ams or the U.S. seniors. You can see the Carolinas are well represented, and go a little further, you can see the Carolinas are well represented on the PGA Tour,
yeah,
and the Korn Ferry. For the states and the population wise, I think per capita, it'd be hard to say anywhere else was represented any better.
Talk to me a little bit about, first time met you was at the East-West matches. Really just this really new format, this new event that came out, which is, really just we're talking Ryder Cup. This is really just kind of right along those lines where it's, the best mid-ams and senior ams, and we got a couple of those young guys that got in there as well. But for the most part, it's really focused on mid-ams and senior ams. The best, east of the Mississippi and the best west of the Mississippi, and just this great format, great location. It was obviously at Merrido Golf Club. A lot of great players there, and we'll talk a little bit about them. But you were keeping an eye on this, weren't you? You knew that this was coming up, and you were thinking maybe I'm going to get an invite, but maybe not.
No, I absolutely was keeping an eye on that, and I was watching the rankings, and I knew where I was, but I did not know the selection process. But I got a call, I guess probably 6 weeks before. Maybe I saw Scott Harvey's name pop up on my phone, and we talked a little bit, and then he asked me to play, and then we chatted a little bit afterwards. He said, "I bet you wondered, what was going on when I saw my name pop up on that." I said, "Scott, actually, I really did, and I'd been following this, and I knew with you involved and Paul involved, and Tim Jackson and Jim Holtzgreave, Kevin Marsh, the captains, I knew it'd be a great event and something that, I wanted to be a part of." So, I was keeping up with it, and when I got that call from Scott, it was a big deal to me.
Now we'll talk a little bit about the play and some of the people that you played with and partners, but going into it, was there someone that you maybe had not met or played with in your time playing nationally or even regionally? Was there someone that you saw that was going to be either on your team or someone else or the other team that you were like, what, I'm going to go play some golf, but there's a couple guys that I want to sit down and have a as you say have a soda with? Who were some of those guys that you maybe were like, I got to get to know them a little bit better?
Well, I mean, I could, Jim Holtzgreave had heard his name forever, and I kind of got on a first name basis with him. You got Hagestad on the other side. You had the U.S. amateur champion on our team, John Pock. It was, I was in, I was in awe of a lot of them. The USGA championships that were represented there. I mean, two of my partners are USGA champions in both those matches. Pretty much everybody there was accomplished as, it was hard to even, in amateur golf, they were up there. I'm pretty accomplished around Lawrence, South Carolina, or Lakeside, or wherever you want to be, but when you get in those circles, you figure out pretty quick, you're not the man, but I was happy to be there. Trust me.
Now you mentioned Hagestad. You use. Now, am I correct? Do you use a long putter, or am I incorrect with that?
He does.
No, I know he does.
I do not.
Okay, for some reason I thought that you did.
No.
Okay.
I use about a 33-inch putter, and I still get down on the steel on that.
That's right. Interesting. So all right. So let me ask you that. You mentioned Hagestad. Obviously, Hagestad uses the long putter, And a lot of when you think of kind of about people using a long putter, it's kind of something you see more with mid ams or with senior ams. Everyone, as you get on in years, you're trying to figure out how to how can we keep the putting, how can we keep everything moving and successful. But you're still using a short putter. Talk to me about your approach to putting.
I use a short putter, and I'm down on the steel on it. And my dad used to say I get my sharecropper stance. I'm bent over. I'm a little over 6 feet tall, but I've got a 33-inch putter, and I still get down on the steel on it, especially on short putts. And I guess the more pressure I get, or the more pressure I feel, the lower I get. And I wondered if I could stand up more and try to stroke it and free it up more. But when I get under pressure, I still revert back to my old ways, and hunched over. I see pictures of myself putting. I say, man, I got to stand up, but it's just hard for me to break old habits.
Okay, so I want to stay on this because I find it interesting. Most people, they kind of stick with a very consistent routine, very much with their fundamentals. And it sounds to me that you maybe not abandon your fundamentals, but like you said, you get to a pressure situation, maybe you crouch down a little bit lower. What kind of work do you do on your short game to stay sharp?
That's one thing. We've got a course, Musgrove Mill, that they built in the late 90s. It probably was a big factor in helping my game. And they've got a great short game area out there. And that's probably where I spend most of my time, is at the short game area and at the putting green when I go to practice. I've lost a little speed. I don't hit it as far. But, I'm in competition. I look back, and I don't think that's the reason where I don't play well is because I'm not hitting it far. I think, if I don't play well, it's usually my wedge game wasn't good, or I've missed some putts, or three putted, or don't get up and down from certain areas. I can still compete if my iron plays good and, my short game's good, even though I've lost some distance. I think that's still where the game is going to come down to, I hope.
So you're basically saying, everyone, as they get older, everyone's going to lose distance. Everyone's going to, just the shots are not going to carry as far. There's going to be issues there. But as long as you kind of got a good short game, you can pretty much compete with anyone.
In the senior game.
Sure.
Yes. That's the way I kind of believe. And that's what I'm hoping, because I'm getting even short for senior standards. So, but that's not I don't think that's what will keep me from being competitive, is losing a little distance. Is if I can keep my short game, in good form.
Yeah. You mentioned just kind of all these great players at the East-West matches, and I think the number was 637, but Scott Harvey and I were trying to figure out how many USGA championships were shared by USGA championship appearances were shared by all the players at the East-West matches, and we just kind of calculated and tabulated it. And that night before the matches started, we kind of announced that to everyone else in the room. 637. You're at that point, I'm guessing even at that point, you're thinking to yourself, what did I get myself into? I mean, I'm thrilled to be here, but oh my gosh, that's just a massive number that just hits you right in the face.
It really was. And, like I said, I was nervous starting the first match. I hit the first shot in the East-West match. So that's one thing they can't take away from me. And I made contact. So, the first matches were 4 balls. So Chip and I.
Yeah, Chip Lutz, former U.S. senior amateur champion. It's you and Chip against Robert Funk and Brian Norton.
Yes, that was a great match. And once we were Chip and I were 3 down going into number 12, and
sounds like Chip played pretty poorly. You had to carry him. Is that what happened?
No, trust me, that's not what happened. I started out playing poorly, and I don't even know if I'd helped Chip through the first 11 holes. But on number 12, we were 3 down, and I made about an 8-footer to keep us from going 4 down. And it kind of relaxed me. It kind of helped me. I knew we were still in the match. And number 13, it probably turned the whole week around. I made it from about, I want to keep my feet true here. I probably made it from about 60 feet. And we went 2 down. The next hole, the par 3, Chip hit it to about 2 inches. The match goes to 1 down. On 15, we all 4 players, Robert and Brian and I and Chip, were all probably in 15 to 20 feet. Chip putts first and makes it, and they missed their putt, so the match goes to even. And I birdied 16 to put it 1 up, and both teams par 17, and Chip birdies 18. So after we won that match, it was like I knew I wasn't going to get skunked, and I had been out there. I was going to record on the in the matches, and I still got a picture of Paul, our captain, Paul Simpson, and Chip and I displayed right there in my office where I spent a lot of time. And every time I look at it, it brings me a lot of joy. So once I got that first match on the board, it was I got a little confidence going forward.
You mentioned Paul Simpson, captain of the team. We're not going to go down the list of how many USGA championships everyone has, but I think Paul is, this guy's age is almost the same number as the USGA championship that he's played in, and that's around 70, which is just incredible. What's it? Obviously you guys have crossed paths. He's a Carolina guy just like you. But when you get to spend that much time with him and be around that guy, I can't be around Paul Simpson without laughing or hearing a great story. Is there a story you can share that you heard from Paul? Because, he's known to, share a story and maybe have a little glass of grape juice alongside of him when he's doing it. What's one of your fondest memories from just being with Captain Simpson that time?
Despite being probably the best player, actually he's been the best player for generations in the Carolinas, but he's one of those rare guys that, he's probably the most popular. People want to be around him. He's never big timed anybody. He's still just one of the boys and go have as you say, grape juice with the boys and tell stories. And you just couldn't make it up how good he's been and what he's won, and how he continues to be that good, and how motivated he is to do what he does. And, it was awesome playing for him as a captain. He's great to be around, whether you're playing with him or against him. I played a lot with him through the years, and he's just what epitomizes what I think amateur golf is meant to be. I think anybody would tell you that. So yeah, he's great to be around. He's a treasure for the Carolinas.
Oh yeah, yeah. I during the practice round, he actually played a little bit, and I said, let me go see the action of this guy. Let me go see what Paul Simpson's all about. And he goes and hits that 3-wood on the 10th tee, and that the 10th hole at Merida is just very challenging because it's just water left. The fairway just doesn't look big at all because it isn't. And yeah, he just gets up there, a couple waggles, and he's got his big old floppy hat on and just pipes a 3-wood dead straight. I'm like, yep, there it is. I see it. I understand now.
Yep, no glove.
No glove.
He does the same little move, and just he makes an athletic move at it as he's close to 70 years old. And he's still, boy, you see that move, and you see how good he's been for so long. Even though his short game is what he's known for, he's hit it well through the years too, or he wouldn't have been there as well.
Yeah, you go for a guy that didn't know if he was going to be at the same accomplishments and same level as everyone else there. Obviously a lot of big names, a lot of big USGA accomplishments. How much joy do you you went 4-0, Walter. Are you aware of that? You went undefeated.
I was very aware of that. That's a joy for me, and it'll be a joy for me forever. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I had great partners, and partners that were understanding. And I told you I hit the first shot in the matches, but I'll guarantee you I hit the worst shot as well.
Oh, well, let's hear about that one.
Jeff Knox and I was my second match, and I've known Jeff. What a great guy he is. We're even going into the fifth hole, which is water down the right and rough down the left. He drives the ball as good as anybody I've about ever seen. I was out there about 115 yards from the hole. The match is even, and I just chunk a gap wedge right into the water. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we lose the hole. I have to tee off on the next hole, and he handled it perfect. He didn't come over there and say, "Oh, don't worry about it. Don't do this and that." He just, just calm as he could. Go to the next hole, and I made contact. I hit a hybrid out there. The next hole goes up the hill, the short hole, and he hit a wedge underneath the hole on number 6 to about 15 feet, and I made it to put us back even, and we went on to win that match. So, but my partners were very understanding. They were calm, and it was it worked out well. I appreciate my partners, and there's nowhere to hide when you go to foursomes or even four balls.
Yeah.
Especially foursomes. You hit a bad shot, you got to go to the next hole. You got to go to the next shot. If your partner hits it in there close or bad, whatever, you got to go to the next one and hit it. And I'd hit a terrible shot, and, the only thing you can do is go to the next hole and next shot and try to do your best. So
sounds like you had great partners. We can't leave out former U.S. Mid-Amateur champion Kevin O'Connell. Tell me about that match.
Third match, I played with Kevin O'Connell, who was a U.S. Mid-Amateur champion and a great guy. I'd known Kevin, and we played on some Carolinas teams together in the Carolinas Virginia's matches, but I never played with him. So I was excited to be paired with him, and what a great guy. And we went on to win, but about maybe somewhere on the front side, I had left him about, sometimes in the foursomes, you'll be putting from 25, 30 feet. And that seemed like 3 or 4 holes in a row. I had 25, 30 footers, and I knocked them by 3, 4, 5 feet. And he kept knocking them in. I said, Kevin, man, I'm sorry to keep leaving there those 4 footers. 5 footers, he said, "Hey, don't worry about it. I'm only 32 years old, So that attitude and that, I had great partners, which was, and they were very understanding and seemed to understand the game, and probably me being a little nervous, and they got it. And just the way they handled things lightheartedly kind of got me through it and was very dear to me. So, I appreciated Kevin's perspective.
You mentioned nerves, and that's actually something I don't talk a lot about here, and it's actually something I should ask. How do you deal with the nerves? You want to compete at the highest level, but it's you put yourself, like you said, you're putting yourself out there in a competitive environment, and nerves are bound to happen. You've had a lot of success, but you've also, sounds like it's a constant with you, fighting through the nerves and getting comfortable. Is there anything that you have that's a routine maybe listeners could implement into their game as a way to get comfortable and free things up so you can play your best golf? Is there anything that you try and do to get yourself comfortable as quickly as possible?
I wish I had a good answer to that. And you just try to breathe, and you try to say, whatever I do on this next shot, I'll just live with it and go find it, or my partner will, and deal with it. That being said, that's hard to do, but that's the only way you can do it. Just accept it and say, I do say I got a 5-year rule. Well, I remember this in 5 years, and a lot of time the case is that I won't. But in the case of those East-West matches, I'm probably going to remember it in 5 years. So I couldn't downplay it in my head. No, there's probably not a time where I wasn't nervous over a single shot, or every shot meant a lot to me, and trust me on that. Wow. And sometimes that works out well, sometimes not so much. I wish I could lighten up. I really do. I think I'd be better if I could lighten up, but that's sometimes not in my nature.
So, great experience, obviously, at the East-West matches. 2021 was the year off, and they're going to circle back and do it again next November. So obviously you have a lot of things you're going to be playing in and doing to kind of get yourself back to the East West matches. How do you kind of set your schedule? How do you kind of figure out, what do I want to play in? What's important in my life that golf is not going to take precedent over, or are there things like that? How do you kind of navigate what you want to do, not just playing competitively, but I'm guessing maybe there's some other places you want to play in the country that you never played before.
Yeah, I look at that senior schedule, and there's so much to play in. You could start, basically the 1st of January and go to December and play pretty much every week in some top quality events. And I try to set a schedule at the first of the year, and I actually write them down. And, sometimes I'll end up playing in all of them or a lot of them, and sometimes I won't. I have to kind of pick and choose. But there's also a lot in the South Carolina and the Carolinas as well. So, I can't play in everything, and I'm trying to, I say it going into years, I may cut back, but when the time comes, I do want to play. And so, I hope we got a few more years left where I can be competitive in this senior golf, because it's been a lot of fun. I've made a lot of good friends, and the relationships I've made through it are very dear to me.
Well, Walter, before I let you go, I definitely wanted to ask you, we've talked a lot about your own personal accomplishments in the game and competition. I know that South Carolina is near and dear to your heart, but have you ventured outside the country to play any golf or done any trips? Curious where else the game has taken you.
Well, I've got I mentioned I have two older brothers that play golf. One, my oldest brother, TD, and we played in everything from South Carolina 4-balls to Mid-Am 4-balls through the years, probably 27 straight years of playing the South Carolina 4-ball together. My brother, Monty, who's about a 6 or 7 handicapper, he loves to compete, and he actually won the Spring Valley Senior Club Championship one year. But we took a trip to Scotland in 1999, the year before my father died, and he could still play 36 holes, and you couldn't replace it doing that and spending that time with my father in Scotland and my two older brothers, and that's something I never regret, and I would encourage people to do that. Play with your family, play with your brothers, your sisters. It's been a big part of my family's life, and as now my children, and I could never repay what golf has done for me, and the good times I've had.
How I've clearly it's probably, I'm guessing it's probably the most important golf trip you've ever had in your life. I don't know if a lot of people can actually think back to like what's been the most important golf trip of your life, but it sounds like this is easily that one. What courses did you play? I've been to Scotland a handful of times. You got to tell me about the courses you played.
Yeah, started out at Turnberry. We did Royal Troon. We played Carnoustie. We played the old course, the four of us. My father still played 36 in a day from time to time.
Wow.
And go in at night and have a few cool pops with the local Scots, and my father just loved it and fit in. Boy, he could talk with them in the pubs, and we all could. It was a great memory, and something they could never take away from us, and something that'll always be dear to me. And that's outside of competitive golf, but it was it's something I look back with, and it is a great memory in my life. And golf kind of brought us all together. We were together in a lot of ways and have always been close, but that, the game, things like that golf does for you or you don't see it in other sports.
Yeah, that's one thing that I also love about Scotland, where it doesn't matter where you come from all over the world. If you love golf, that's the common denominator. That's the common language. It doesn't matter. Like, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but you do have a slight accent, a South Carolina accent. And I'm sure that they in Scotland might have picked up on that And
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's but it doesn't matter. Like, it's just what's so great about that about Scotland. If you love golf, then you're welcomed. You're part of the family.
Absolutely. And I've been told I was Scotch Irish my whole life. So I think there's something goes back in your blood that makes you love the game. You know, maybe something born into you, but I think there's something born into, I guess there's something about a good man or a good lady that just draws you to the game. And I love being around it. I'm more comfortable in golf circles than probably any other circles. And the Scots, as you say, they love the game, love being around it, talk it at the pubs and play it. And I love being over there with them.
So I'm going to let you go because I know you have got to get some work done today. I mean, and we got to kind of get ready for more tournaments this year. What's kind of on the agenda for the rest of the year? I mean, obviously we're looking towards the fall. The weather's going to get cooler up there in South Carolina. What are you kind of working on right now?
Well, the South Carolina Mid-Am is this weekend, and then I'm playing in the Carolinas, Virginia's matches. There's a match every year with a team from North and South Carolina play a team from Virginia, West Virginia. That is a lot of fun, and Walt actually made the team this year, so it'll be the first time I've ever played on the team when he's on the team. So I'm looking very much forward to that, and I think that's kind of going to wind my season up. There's another little local four ball at my home club, but I think that's kind of going to do it for me. Regroup and get ready for next year. Hope to play better next year.
There's one thing I wanted to, before I let you go, you were just talking about Scotland, and, I know he's not a South Carolina guy, but he's an Iowa guy. He's been on the podcast, and he was there at the East-West matches. How impressive is it for a guy to see what Gene Elliott has done this year, winning the U.S. Senior Amateur, winning the British Senior Amateur in the same year. When you see something like that, I'm guessing that motivates you to, spend a couple more, hours on the putting green, or, maybe implement a physical fitness program or something. I mean, when you see that, what does that do to kind of get you ready for next year?
Oh, absolutely. It's a motivator, and you got to admire what Gene did. In fact, I went out there the year before. I know but Gene lost in a playoff in 2019. I was over there and actually went out and watched the playoff.
Oh, with him and Royak.
No, he got beat by Craig Davis.
Oh, okay. In the British Senior you're talking about.
In the British Senior at North Berwick in 2019, I think it was, or maybe in 2018. The years run together on me. But, that he was, I think he was the only American that went over there this year, and he had to quarantine for 2 weeks, and what he went through. And then to go to win the tournament was impressive, and then come back and win the U.S. Senior. That's got to be a great year for Gene, and I know he's been a good player for a long time. But to actually pull that off was impressive. And, yeah, that motivates me. I hope to get on a stretching regimen and get better. I'm still motivated. I still want to compete, and I want to win probably as bad as I ever have.
Well, Walter, this is long overdue. I'm glad that we were able to catch up. It was really great meeting you at East-West matches. You were you were one of my highlights of the week, and I know that you're going to do everything you can to get yourself back on that team, and got some unfinished business there, obviously. So we will hope to see you at the next East-West matches, and I appreciate you stopping by the back of the range.
Hey, Ben, I appreciate you considering me. I enjoy talking with you, and I hope to see you there. That's definitely a motivating factor.
And there you have it. Special thanks to Walter Todd for joining me on this episode here at the Back of the Range. Don't forget, every episode is available at thebackoftherange.com. We'll see you next time here at the Back of the Range.